That's right. You see that stand mixer? You see that kitchen? That is right. I am back with another cake. I am baking another cake. So I saw these really cool wave things that were happening on my Instagram feed, and I'm like, hey, I want to do that. So my original plan was to create like a goodbye summer cake where it was this, you know, sandy beach kind of bottom layer to it, and then it would have this water top layer to it with some water jello on the top and these waves coming out of it. I had this whole plan, and it kind of went off the rails a little bit. Surprise, surprise. So I first started with the new cake recipe, which is a vanilla cake. Oh my goodness, it is. I think it's better than the chocolate cake. I'm sure I could add like chocolate, melted chocolate to this, cocoa powder to this to make it a chocolate cake. But it is a really good vanilla cake. Normally, I like cheesecake the best, but this is a really good vanilla cake. So this is my first time making this recipe, and it was a lot easier than I was expecting it to be. It's also the first time that I made buttercream icing, and oh boy, did I mess that up. But we'll get to that later. Right now, I'm like cutting up the butter and I'm putting everything in the mixer, dry, wet ingredients. It's been a while since I've cracked a few eggs to make stuff, and I am absolutely impressed with myself that I managed to not break any of the eggs. I didn't get any of the shells inside specifically. Of course, you gotta break eggs to make a cake. And then I found these two circular pans. There's actually three of them, but I used the smaller two because I know that my family isn't big on sweets. So I made these two smaller pans and then I sprayed them down with Pam, and it was a lot all in one place, so I used a paper towel to just kind of spread it around and make sure I got all of it evenly. And getting them out of the pans was super easy because of it. It's 10 out of 10. Would recommend if you're putting anything into pans. So trying to put them together, I realized that this batter was only enough for the small one, so I put it all into the small one and then had to make another round of it before I was able to put both of them in. I'm pretty sure I let the first one sit before putting it into the oven. To save time, I really should have put the smaller one in, but they both went in at the same time, they were both done at the same time, and I couldn't decorate the top one without decorating the bottom one first, so it worked out how it worked out. But yeah, more eggs. I basically doubled the recipe right here to put in the bigger one, and it fit perfectly. I'm really glad that I didn't use the biggest one because I don't think I would have had enough ingredients to fill up the biggest one and then like the middle one. And definitely we wouldn't have eaten it. We wouldn't have eaten all of it. My sisters brought home friends that weekend, so we did have a lot of people to eat the cake, thankfully. This whole project took a lot longer than I was expecting. I was expecting, maybe 2.5 hours, but it took me 3.5 hours to get everything. And even by the end of this video, I still don't have the final picture with the rice paper waves on it. The original video where I got the idea for the rice paper waves will be down in the description. I 100% recommend you try it out. It's a great tutorial. Now, you may or may not notice, but after this, I do put in another batch that suspiciously doesn't look like buttercream icing, and you would in fact be right. So I put in the 2 batches of cake, and then I also put in a batch of chocolate chip cookie dough without the chocolate chips in it because I wanted to have a cookie crumble for adding a bit of texture to the sand, and it's really good. Even just eating it, I put the extras in some vanilla pudding and ate that, and it was amazing. 10 out of 10, especially for using extras that would have just been thrown out otherwise. Despite my mother not being a huge baker, she managed to end up with 2 kids who really like baking, and then the third one who likes to cook. I think that's super funny. We actually got that from our grandmothers who would bake all the time, constantly. Whenever we were there, we were always making some kind of cookies. It was awesome. I think my favorite is when doing sugar cookies and then adding icing on top of that. I remember pretty much only eating the icing because I don't really like sugar cookies, so I would just like eat the icing by the knifeful because we were given plastic and butter knives to spread on the cookies. But she also had like tons of sprinkles that we would add on top of the cookies. And my other grandmother, she mostly made cakes, so like zucchini cake. It sounds super weird, but you don't taste the zucchini at all. It just makes it feel a lot more healthier, even though it's just chocolate cake. But yeah, I'm really liking all of the baking projects that I've done since starting this channel. And I've even tried cooking a few times. I did a ravioli bake and I needed to add a lot more cheese, but it was so good. And today I made my own pierogies, which were I have not tried them yet. I'm a little bit scared to try them because they might be too doughy or the potatoes inside might be a little wrong to what I'm used to. So it'll be interesting to try those, but they are giant. They are giant pierogies. And then tomorrow I'm gonna try this spaghetti squash casserole, which I'm super excited. There's so much cheese in it. I absolutely love cheese, and this uses 3 different kinds of cheese. So I'm excited to make it, and I'm also gonna try and learn to cook fish. I do not like fish. I haven't eaten fish in like 10, 13 years, something like that. So I'm gonna try and cook fish because both my parents like fish and I want to try and do something nice for them. So I'm gonna try and cook fish for them. We'll see how this goes. My mother likes her fish cooked very specifically because that's how she grew up, and I understand. My spaghetti sauce is very much the same way. I like my spaghetti sauce cooked in a very specific way. Otherwise, it kind of tastes off, and I feel like everybody has that one food where it's like this is a home cooked meal, and if you eat it somewhere else, it's not the same. It's not as good. So I'm gonna try and learn how to do that among all of my cooking and baking ventures. I learned how to cook steak this year, which has been super delicious, especially because sometimes I just need that pure protein. And of course, because I'm still a teenager, absolutely no vegetables on the side whatsoever. So now that the cookie crumble is done and the cakes are inside the oven, the hot thing behind me. This is where I'm going to start on just general cleanup because cleaning up as you go I find is way easier. This is where I start the jello water. I decided to put it in here and just cut around it so that it could be, put into whatever shape I needed it to go on top of the cake. I did add a bit of extra gelatin, as you can see in the other box, because I know that setting it sometimes like it doesn't get the right consistency. So I added 1 pack of this other stuff and made sure to read the directions. because following directions is something that I need desperately. I would never be able to do this just off the cuff, especially since this is like my first time doing all of this. I don't know how much made it into the last video, but the last time I did not follow Jello instructions and it was a disaster. So right here is when I start making the buttercream sugar, and it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I used just enough salt that it wasn't like sickly sweet. I thought it was going to be sickly sweet because the last time I tried buttercream icing, it was like uber sweet. It was way too sweet. So I was expecting this to also be super sweet, but thankfully it was a lot chill and I really like eating it. I probably would eat it by the spoonful if I was allowed. But there's a lot of sugar in it. And if you'll remember at the start of the video, I mentioned that this went badly. And like, if it tasted so good, how did it go badly? Well, the bad part is after it was all put together and stuff. So the orange turned out really well, and for the blue, well, I'm not gonna spoil it just yet. But just know, the orange, it went on super well. I did make a little mistake putting it onto the cake, but you know, that happens. I was trying to do it all from memory when I should have looked up, how regular and professional bakers put it on cakes. And I did a half-baked attempt that you would find on Nailed It. Actually, maybe the people on Nailed It would have done it better than me. But I do like how it came out. I'm super proud of this project. It's it's one of the best cakes I have ever made, and I have made a total of 2, and this being one of them. One thing I will say about doing this is it was a lot of juggling with having things in the oven and doing other things. It was a lot to keep track of, and I had to constantly be walking away to check if the stuff in the oven was done, as you saw there. Now all of the actual baking was done, and I just had to cut apart stuff. For the cookie crumble, I did cut apart the pan a little bit more and like crush it up and move it all around because I wanted to get that nice crunchy cookie texture, and you couldn't really do that when it was in a cookie loaf. So what I did was I cut it up and I spread it around a baking sheet and I popped that back in the oven to let it crisp up a little. You can see me sneaking pieces of the sugar right here because it was so good. I I could not help myself. And even when my siblings came in, like they were real happy with it. Wearing black was a really big mistake because this confectionery sugar or powdered sugar or icing sugar just it goes everywhere. Like I managed to make such a disaster of the kitchen and I had no possible idea. Like you can't even see it in the video. There was icing and just things got splashed everywhere around the cabinets that I had to wipe down. Somehow, even when things go pretty much all right, I still managed to make a complete disaster of the kitchen. So it originally started off as a goodbye to summer kind of cake. That was my original reason of doing it. And then I was reminded by my mother that it was my birthday the day I was making this. So it kind of turned into my birthday cake. We brought out some candles and lit them and I blew them out and it was kind of funny that I totally forgot. But I really enjoyed the cake. It was definitely a project. I think my mother took pictures of the final project, but it definitely shows where I'm at with my culinary skills, and maybe a couple of years down the line, I'll try to redo this cake after I've practiced a few more of these skills and not messed up. But yeah, as you can see here, I'm now separating the buttercream off to two bowls. The bigger one will be going on the bigger cake, and it will be the sand color, and then the smaller one will be blue and it'll be the watercolor. So here I'm starting off with the sand. I'm gonna try and make it like this orangey type of beach. You can see that because of this I wanted a better angle for the cake, so we have a better angle. It is currently wedged between the counter, like the cabinets up top, and the stand mixer, which I find kind of funny, but it also means that I had to mix all of the buttercream by hand, which was very much an experience. I wish I used the stand mixer to mix them up and kind of get all the colors in it. Or at least used an actual whisk, like a hand mixer, an electric hand mixer, because that would be a lot better. I made a lot of extra jello, which I ate in the next few days. I flavored it with pink lemonade because I absolutely love pink lemonade. Pretty much am addicted to it, but I absolutely love it. So I added that to make like a tropical kind of flavor for the water, which I thought was really good. It wasn't a big fan with everybody else, but you know, that happens. It's a hit or miss. And here is where I made my first mistake with the buttercream, where I just, scooped it up and slathered it on. Most professionals use a piping bag and they put it in the piping bag so that they can put it on the cake and then use one of these scrapers to just smooth it out. This was the biggest mistake that I made. Well, I don't know, the thing that I did with the blue icing was pretty bad. But this was definitely a big mistake for me. Really messed up how I did the sides, and it probably would have made putting the blue icing on a lot better. The blue icing leaked. I know, buttercream, it's not supposed to leak, but the blue icing leaked onto the sand layer like actual water. There was a waterfall on one side that I had to make because of it. And yeah, it really just, it was a disaster icing this cake, but it looked half decent. I don't know, I would not say it looked professional in any sense of the concept. But I did the best that I could with very, very, very little cake decorating knowledge. So if you are a baker, this is the perfect time for spooky season to come out. I bet this is just absolutely horrible to watch. It's horrible to watch for me because I knew that I could have done it a lot better. I watch a couple of cake decorating channels on my Instagram, and I really enjoy watching them, and I should have known to do this better. I'm sorry to all the creators that I follow and watch them do this. Now here, this is where I made the big mistake. Even people who don't bake at all should be cringing at this. So these are new packages of icing. And as you saw there in the little cutaway, what I did was I took the lid and I poured water over it, and then I poured that water into the buttercream to mix it up more. And as you see, I even put it in the stand mixer to see if that would help. It did not. It was this weird, like some of it was white and some of it was blue. It was a really, really weird texture. I mean, it looks decent. I don't know, even then it looks weird. Now I know it for next time, and honestly, it probably would have looked better if I made this mistake with the sand layer. It definitely looked a lot more grainy. Uh, but yeah, It was a big mistake on my part. Next time I know, don't add water to the buttercream. I don't even know how much water I added, but it was a decent amount, and I am so sorry to everybody for the mistake that I made. So those are the two things that I know for next time. One, don't add water to the buttercream. It's bad. And two is use a piping bag when putting the icing on the cake. It'll be a lot easier than doing what I did and just kind of shovel it on there. And then I put pieces of the jello on top after I was finished doing all of the main icing. You can already see it dripping down the sides of the cake. I did make the sand a bit darker and put that in a piping bag, and I did a couple of tips to just put a layer between the sand and the water to see if I could help some of the running. It doesn't look good. It looks like my cake is bleeding. Maybe I tried to do like a fruit filling cake some other time. Maybe for this Halloween. There's some creepy eyeballs and some knife sugar kind of, I don't know. I would call them like cake charms. They're not really sprinkles. They're a lot bigger than sprinkles, but I don't know. Maybe I make like a really creepy Halloween cake. Now back to me. That was my very lovely overseer. Normally we don't allow the dogs in the kitchen, but because I wasn't really watching, she was just kind of, sitting there and chilling, getting out of my way. You can see her walking around in the rest of the background. Yeah, doesn't listen when we try to get her out of the kitchen. Tries to steal any food that you dropped, like the little scavenger she is, little vulture. But she's absolutely adorable. She gets away with all of her crimes. Here you can see me take the cookie crumble out of the food processor and put it into the sand of the cake. And then here I'm putting these like silver balls of sugar. I guess they are sprinkles, but they're a lot bigger than normal sprinkles. So I don't know. They're right on that edge of being this like decoration. And you can see me get plates out for what was going to make the rice paper waves, but then I changed my mind and decided to use this pan instead for the water, because it was a lot better choice. I feel like if I did it on the plate, yeah, the plate has a bit of a lip, but not enough that would make things go everywhere. It definitely needed the bigger lip. So I didn't want to make them like super pure blue because this was going to be like a beach, and pure blue I feel like was more middle of the ocean kind of thing. So I added a bit of green and a bit of yellow to kind of give it that slightly off blue tip. I have no idea how many times I watched this video. It was upwards of 10 to try and figure out how to get this right. This is something that I really wanted to get right, but I didn't have skewers, so it was a little bit not right. They were falling off the cake a lot, but they did come out really well in the end. I'm super proud of how that came out. One of the good parts of it. And here's the final shot of the cake. It was definitely worth the time and effort. And yeah, that's it. Catch you all on the flip side.